since we're going to be talking about eyeshadow, let's take a little moment and just enjoy this like Moroccan tile color combo I've got going on today. Alright, appreciation complete. Hello, my Smack of Jellyfish! Today we are going to be doing the Eyeshadow Palette Lovers Tag. It's probably going to be a lot of the same content as like my last eyeshadow tag video because I don't have a very big collection and there's probably some overlap in the questions, but you know what? I fucking love eyeshadow and any excuse to talk about it. It's fun. Alright. This tag was started by Angelica Lyremar. I have not yet watched any of her content, so after I film this video, I'm gonna go check her out. I will link her video in the description box. I will also list out all of the questions for this tag if you would like to play along in the comments or make your own video or just be curious what those questions are. Question number 1 is a palette I regret I didn't buy. I'm pretty good at not having a lot of FOMO, fear of missing out on makeup releases, but the one that does kind of feel like it's the one that got away is the Melt Vita palette. I do periodically check to see if it's still available on Beauty Bay, and I'm tempted, especially now that I know that the pans in that and the Morte palette are magnetic. Since the last restock with Melt, I've gotten into more greens, I've gotten into more like bright reds and oranges, so now I am much more drawn to that color story than when it first came out. And since I got the Morte palette, I'm like, now that I know what the formula is like, I'm like, yeah, I would enjoy this. It's not my favorite formula, but the shimmers last all day on me, so that is a big plus in its favor. Whenever I hear that question, that is like the number one thing that comes to mind is the Melt Vita palette. Question number 2, a palette I regret buying. I've talked about this before in that I regret buying the NYX Ultimate Brights palette because I felt deceived by a bunch of people recommending it, and then I really don't like the formula. I feel like it is too gently pigmented for the way I like to use color. But I think another one that's kind of a contender is actually my Too Faced Semi-Sweet Chocolate Bar palette. It is this pretty neutral with a pop of kind of disappointing blue. Just because I feel like there are better matte formulas and better neutral color stories that would have suited me better. But I bought this, I found it at TJ Maxx, and it was at the very beginning of like my revamping my makeup collection journey, and I was just like, I need to have a neutral palette because I don't currently have any. So I kind of bought it for that, and I'm not in love with the formula. I use like 3 shades in here. Granted, this like highlighting shade I like as a face highlighter. I do really like it as a face highlighter. But apart from that, I could take or leave everything else in here. I kind of wish I had been a little more patient and really thought about the color range and like the shimmer range and had looked up like more reviews about this particular palette before kind of impulsively buying it just because it was half off at TJ Maxx. Question number 3, a palette I haven't used as much as I thought I would. And this is 2 little palettes. This is the 2 Midas Cosmetic coffee quads that I have. I have Latte and Macchiato. Let me show you the colors. So Latte is this little orangey number. And Macchiato is this little like grungy brown and green number. I use Latte a little bit more because I've gotten more into using like orange colors, but I thought that these would be like great little like you know, pull one palette, one and done little looks, and I think it's not so much like a failing of the palettes as all of my palettes live in this one little box except for these. They live in like another little area. So when I'm looking at my palettes trying to think of what I want to do, I kind of forget about them, and it's just kind of the nature of the storage. But also, like, I like the Midas formula, but I initially wasn't like super impressed with it. Like, for the price, no regrets. But once I started using like the NYX HD eye primer, that one really helped a lot with getting pigment to kind of show up better and not just like kind of blend away to nothing. Now that I've been using the eye primer, I need to give these little babies a little more love and play around with them. I also was initially drawn to them as being like nice little travel palettes, which, yeah, I'm not doing any traveling. And I want to clarify, when I mean travel, I don't just mean like getting on a plane and going to another country. I also mean like going and spending a weekend with family, or if I go from work to an event and I want to do a little bit of makeup. I consider travel makeup any makeup that you leave your house with to use throughout the day, or to use in a place that's not your home. Question number 4, a palette that I use more than I thought. And this is my favorite, my baby, my BH. It's my Ray Ray palette. Unfortunately, this is a discontinued collab, so it's not really available anymore. But I bought this from the BH website. I had initially gone in to buy the Galaxy Chic palette, and then in trying to reach free shipping, I was also like, hey, let me just grab another neutral palette and grab, I don't remember what else I got, like a lip pencil or something. So I threw this in there, and it has become one of my favorite palettes. Actually, let me show this to you again. So I've hit pan in this transition shade. I was kind of trying to hit pan in this, but then I did not mean to hit pan in this purple shade. I love this as a lower lash line. This shimmer in particularly, you can't really see it, but it's got quite a lot of dip in it. And, you know, I actually kind of like these shimmers in here. Like, this is supposed to be like a face palette, but I mostly just use it as more eyeshadow. I just find myself reaching into it to get like an inner corner highlight, or just like that one shade of brown that feels missing from another palette I'm using. So I love it. And when I bought it, it was just kind of a, okay, like this looks interesting and good variety, good bang for my buck. But now it's like, I love it. If I had to keep just one, it's this puppy. My favorite half neutral, half colorful palette. And I have to agree with Alex the Alchemist on this one, because she had the same answer, was ABH Jackie Aina palette. It definitely kind of comes off as more colorful, but you've got like these neutral shades here, and actually like this kind of middle pink shade definitely you can use in a more neutral way. And then like these are kind of like neutral tones, but then you've got, you know, wonderful sponsored and a purple shimmer and a red shimmer. So yeah, this is my only ABH palette. I'm glad I picked this one up. It's kind of like my only like range of pinks in my collection, so I've probably got the most use out of these. And I also love the variety of texture in the shimmers. I don't love every texture. A lot of them are unique to my collection in terms of texture, so I'm glad to have at least one shadow to be like, oh, I really love that texture, or nah, that doesn't really work for me. I know to avoid that in the future. So, yay. Question number 6. A palette I bought for the packaging. I think this is going to be a lot of people's answer. The Melt Vida and Muerte collection. I, as mentioned, that I don't have the Vida one, so I only own the Muerte half. Let me show you the inside without blinding you. There's a mirror on the top part, and then this is the color story. It's showing up much brighter on camera. It's actually, the color story is actually quite a darker in person. So it's a very unique color story. I love the art inspiration. I love the outer packaging and inner packaging and how they balance each other out. I love the actual like packaging, how it and the other half are designed to go together. There's a little magnetic strip in here, and there's another beautiful skull artwork that goes with it. But it was a very well thought out, well designed, well executed collection. So, yep, this is definitely, you know, without the packaging, I might have been able to talk myself out of it, but with the packaging and the overall art theme, I was like, yeah, okay, I see you, Mel. A little runner-up, honorable mention, would be the NYX Grind palette. This was also a limited edition collection. I do not think it's available anywhere anymore. It's quite old. But it was a little, like, steampunk-themed collection. So yeah, that got my attention. This color story looks like this. Lovely grungy goodness. Nice big mirror. So definitely like a lot simpler than the Melt collection, but this is another one that like without the packaging and like the collection inspiration, I might have not been quite as interested. Number 7, a palette where I like the shimmers more than I like the mattes. That would be my Cleona Cosmetics Archeo palette. She looks like this. The whole color story is beautiful, but the mattes, definitely now, I feel like they've started to go off a little bit. Probably have the most use out of this mauve shade. The yellow is excellent. I need to use it more. It is like the most pigmented yellow in my collection. But I should be talking about the shimmers. These shimmers are freaking amazing. This is the green that taught me how to love green. This is like a beautiful duochrome purple, and the formula of these is great. They also last on my lids all day, even like before I was using a glitter glue on my lid. I have deep set eyes, so my crease will just eat whatever is on my lid over a couple of hours. I need to use this more because it's getting a little bit old, and I want to make sure that I show it a good amount of love and respect. Number 8, a palette where I like the mattes more than the shimmers, and that's gonna go to my Juvia's Place Festival palette. So she looks like this, and I've found that these are just not shimmers I use a lot, like this dark kind of black with glitter in it. I found that I don't like dark shimmers on my lid because it just kind of like makes everything look too dark too easily. This kind of like champagne shade is another one that like I don't use just because I feel like it's the most dupable, so I just don't open this palette for this shade if I'm using other palettes, because odds are the other palette already has it. I thought I would use this white shade more for like an inner corner highlight or something, but I feel like I just don't do, I like a color on the inner corner more than I like a white. But the mattes in here, I don't use all of them too much, but like this kind of pink peach shade, you can't see it in this light, but it's got maybe if I get closer, it's got quite a dip in it. This I love is like just all over the lid shade with maybe like a little bit of this reddish orange just to deepen it up. This is probably like my second most used shade, and for a long time this was like one of my only like true reds, but it does stain quite a bit, so I've kind of eased off of using it so much. But like, and this is also like one of my most saturated pink shades, so like mostly I love the mattes because they're some of my most unique pigmented shades, but some of them, like, you know, with Manmu and Ofala, they're just colors that really suit me and I feel really inspired by, and I feel like it's really easy to incorporate them, and the formula works for me. So, great. Question number 9. A palette that happily surprised you. I it was a little bit challenging because all of my palettes are kind of like pretty well thought out purchases. So there's never really been something where I've bought it and been like, I'll just like give it a try, or like, it's on sale, I'll try it. Like everything I've bought has been something that I've kind of thought about and wanted. But I came up with the Michelou Queen Bee palette. I love the color story, and the way in which this surprised me was, I think this was one of the first palettes I bought that had a great variety of texture in it. Like Nectar is like a very like glittery, flaky shimmer. And then let's see, this shade Beauty and the shade Queen. This one actually looks like they kind of have a little bit of sheen in them, but I use them more as mattes. I think the little bit of satin in them just kind of helps them blend more. This kind of white shade is like a pink white duochrome that I love as a highlighter. I don't really love it like as an eyeshadow, but as a highlighter. So it was surprised me just because I was impressed by it, because it was my first introduction to formula variety within a palette. So that's cool. And then another contender would be my BH Galaxy sheet. I bought this early in my makeup journey when I was like, I need color, and then I was kind of lured in by all the pretty shimmery shades and not thinking about like, oh, there's no mattes in here. So for a while I was a little bit disappointed because I'm like, I can't make a complete look out of this palette and it's so big compared to everything else I own. But I kind of fell back in love with it when I was starting to get into using a colorful light colored shimmer for inner corner and brow bone highlights. So like these light purples, these greens, and the light blues. These kind of pinky golds are some of the most used shades in this palette. And there's a lot of like very unique colored shimmers in here, and for the price, the formula is great. There is a little bit of variety of formula. There's like a more foiled metallic, and then there's like a little bit chunky glittery formula. It's not like really chunky, but there's definitely like the smoother formula and the glittery formula. Surprised me in I'm using it in a very different way than what I intended when I purchased it. So cool. Yay. All right, the last question number 10, a palette with the most interesting color story. These are going to be familiar. Definitely Jackie Aina. I mean, I think that was a very discussed point about it is this really interesting mix of colors and neutrals and depth. Like you don't just have like one like dark color. You've got a dark brown and a dark purple. You've got some light colored shimmers and like some more dark editorial colored shimmers. And then also you've got neutrals and greens and purples. Not my most colorful, but I think it's my most interesting because I think you can get like the most variety of looks out of this palette. Loving it for similar reasons. I'd have to go back to my NYX grind. I think now post ABH subculture, I think this color story isn't that like revolutionary, but I think similarly to the Jackie Aina, I think you can get a good variety of looks out of this, and also like all of the shimmers are quite different from each other. You've got a green shimmer, a pink duochrome, a gold, a like red blue duochrome, and like a bright copper, and then you've got, you know, green, purple, and yellowy tones, and then like a cool neutral and a warm neutral. You've got just like a little bit of everything. It's not the only factor that I think would make for an interesting color story, but I think it's definitely one of the criteria that I hold up of whether or not a color story is interesting is, do I feel inspired, and do I feel inspired to do different things? Do I feel inspired to play? So yeah, I think these two palettes are definitely my most inspiring color stories. So that is the Eyeshadow Palette Lovers tag. As I mentioned, I will leave the list of questions in the description box. If you would like to answer the questions in the comments below and let me know, do you find yourself choosing some of the same palettes for these questions? Do we have very differing views on what constitutes like half neutral, half colorful, or most interesting color story, or anything like that? Yeah, anyway, let's chat. I'll also have my other social media places linked in the description box where you can find me. I will also have a link for bail funds across the US because Black lives still matter and there are still protests. And in my city just yesterday, a whole bunch of them were gathered peacefully and the police came up and arrested like a dozen of them for literally no actual reason. So, this shit ain't over. You can still help. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I hope you get to learn something cool today, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye!